Xerxes for one night ceased to be the king. For just one night, he was the king during the day. He abdicated at night, and then he became the king again in the morning. So, how did this happen? This is what I'm going to tell you in this video. So Xerxes is the king. His father Darius is dead, and he becomes the king. And I've told you in the previous video that some people were pushing him to go to Persia, no, to go to Greece and attack Greece, and specifically Athens. One of those people is Mardonius, who was his cousin. And Mardonius says he had personal reasons. He wanted to go to Europe. He liked the place. He was hoping to be the governor, the satrap. The other group of people were Greeks in Susa, who had been removed from power, specifically the family of Hippias, who had been removed from power, and they had escaped to Susa. Now they were using some oracle of theirs to persuade Xerxes that it is the gods who expect him to go and attack and conquer Athens. Now, Xerxes is under this pressure to go and attack Athens and Greece in general. But first he decides to go to Egypt. He goes to Egypt, he puts down a revolt that was going on there. He's successful, he puts in power his brother, another son of Darius, to be in charge of Egypt, and then he comes back to Susa. Now, when he comes back to Susa, he is now ready to tell the general public about his plans of going to Greece. And he calls a meeting. I'm guessing it's a meeting of the notable or nobles or people who make decisions in Persia into a huge meeting, and he explains to them that he's decided to go to Greece, to attack Greece and Athens specifically, and he gives them several reasons. Among them, he wants to punish Athens for burning down Sardis. He wants to punish Athens for defeating them. Remember, Persians had gone to conquer Athens, and the Athenians defeated them, and now that became something they needed to be punished for. And he also said it was an opportunity to make Persia even greater, like they were going to conquer the entire of Europe and then make it part of the Persian kingdom or Persian empire. So he says all this, he's explaining his reasons. He says, we are great people, we need to do more. He's saying all this, and once he's done, he tells the people in the meeting to give their own opinions. And the person who speaks next is Mardonius. Of course, Mardonius wants Xerxes to go to Europe. Mardonius, his cousin, tells the crowd, like, we need to go to Europe, and he starts telling Xerxes that he's like overpraising Xerxes because he wants to basically make him do what he wants. He tells him, you surpass all living passions in your, of course, wisdom and power and whatever, and even those who are not born yet. And he's telling him, the Greeks are people we can easily beat. Why can we even fear them? We can't fear them. They are not in great numbers. They don't have a lot. They are not wealthier than us. They don't know how to fight better than us. He says he's kind of underestimating the Greeks, which is not the best thing to do when you are planning a war. Like, don't underestimate your opponent. Always see them as very great or very good at what they do, and then plan from there. But this Mardonius is starting with telling the Persian king and the people at the meeting that the Greeks was weak and they could not match the Persians. So he speaks all this, and then the next person to talk is Artabanus. Artabanus was an uncle of Xerxes. He was a brother of Darius the Great. And Artabanus tells Xerxes that before you decide to go to war with the Greeks, you better listen to different opinions, because when you get different opinions, then you can make the best decision. But if all of us just go into the standing on the same or making the same stand or taking the same stand on this issue, then we might end up making bad decisions. And he reminds him about him and Darius going to Europe to attack the Scythians, and he tells him, I had warned your father about that, but he didn't listen. And we went to Europe, and we escaped, we were almost being vanquished there. So don't make this decision of going to Greek just so easily. You need to think more about it. And he tells him about you're saying you're going to put a bridge and then cross over, but do you know that it's possible for that bridge to be removed, and then all of us will be finished or be killed in Europe. He also tells him, the Greeks are very valiant. They are good fighters. Don't underestimate them. He tells the king, Mardonius is making a huge error by underestimating the Greeks. We fought them before. Remember, we went to Athens, to Marathon, and they beat us. So why should we just be like, oh, it's so easily? In fact, he tells Xerxes that he calls Mardonius foolish about his opinion about the Greeks and their way of fighting. Says it's very foolish of him. Like he was generally trying to tell Xerxes, be careful, think very carefully about this decision. Don't underestimate the Greeks. Don't think it's so easy to conquer them or to beat them at battle. So, and whatever Mardonius is telling you, don't take it. In fact, he challenged Mardonius, and he was like, if you think it's so easy to beat the Greeks, I want us to bet. And we are betting. I think we told him they bet with their families or something like that. And of course, Mardonius was not interested. And after Artabanus is done speaking, Xerxes was very angry because Artabanus was kind of going against what he had said. And I was very angry with him. In fact, he told him, were it not that you are a brother to my father, I would have ordered that you be killed. And Xerxes called Artabanus silly and a coward for saying that they shouldn't go to war with the Greeks. And so the meeting ended. The final decision was with the Persians were going to put together an army and resources and go to Greece and Athens in specific and fight a war there. Now, but after the meeting had ended, Xerxes is sitting by himself and is thinking about everything that went on in the meeting, and he starts thinking about whatever Artabanus was saying, and he starts seeing sense in it. He starts seeing like Artabanus was right. I think we shouldn't be so fast in making the decision to go to Greece. And after he decided that there and then that the next morning he was going to call a meeting again and tell them that he had changed his mind, and now he was going to do what Artabanus, or was going to take Artabanus' advice. But as he was sleeping, he had a dream, and he saw someone who came to him and told him, don't change your mind. Do it as you had initially decided. But he woke up in the morning and he was like, he forgot about the dream, and he called the meeting and he told them, I've decided the decision is we are not going to Greece, at least not yet. We need to think about this some more. So everybody was informed about that. Now, that day he went to sleep again, and the same dream came to him. Like, why are you changing your mind? You should go to war with the Greeks. Don't change your mind. The first decision you made was the right decision. And he woke up and he was disturbed, because at this point, Herodotus tells us that Xerxes was so sure that going to Europe to fight the Greeks was a bad idea. It was not a good idea. Whatever Artabanus had told him was very wise. And then he calls Artabanus and he tells him about the dream. And Artabanus tells him, you know what? which is I found his advice very, I can call it scientific or very practical. He tells him, we humans, when we are so occupied with a subject or an issue, we often dream about it. So don't worry about it. I guess this is one of those, because we've been talking about this issue. Then you go to sleep and a dream comes. That's not like a big deal. But he tells him no. It's disturbing, and he comes up with an idea. He tells him, I want you tonight to come, wear my robes, and even put on the whatever a king puts on, and sit on the throne for a while. And then after that, later on, go and sleep at the king's chamber, like you are the king for the night. So Artabanus does not like the suggestion, because he had a lot of respect for the king, but he agrees in the end, and he puts on the king's attire. He sits on the throne that evening. He acts as the king that evening, but this was secretly. Nobody else knew. It was just the two of them. And then when the time came to go to bed, he went and slept in the chamber where the king slept. And at night, the dream came to him. And the dream was, why are you trying to persuade the king to change his mind? And he saw this dream, and he woke up in the morning, and he met Xerxes, and they had a conversation about it. And they decided, now it's beyond us. We need to prepare for the war. But now, this story is one of those that will make people question the credibility of Herodotus' tales. But I think this is not something that should be used to discredit him. That's my personal opinion. And this is why I think that way. These stories of magic and dreams are stories that are told by people in power. It's likely nothing like that happened. It's likely nothing like such a dream happened. But people in power usually generate these stories for the masses. And I think this is one of those that was generated to perform some function with the masses. It was released as a story for the masses. I think this is one of those. So whether it happened or it didn't happen, it's not something to put on Herodotus. He's just telling a story that he was told as he was researching these things. So, and these stories are all over the book, such stories of dreams, visions, and whatever. And even in the times we are living, people in power create stories that are meant to achieve some certain goals. I think that's this one. So now after these dreams, they decide they are going to war with the Greeks, and now the preparations start. And Herodotus tells us that it took 4 years to prepare for the war against the Greeks, and in particular Athenians.